welcome to Tottenham Court Square, here in the near geographic centre of London. Unfortunately, the tube is currently closed, so where I'm heading to, London City Airport, is going to be much more difficult. Today, I'll be flying with British Airways on an Embraer E190, bound for the Scottish city of Glasgow. As is typical for me, whenever I fly, things never seem to go to plan, and this video is no exception, as my original flight, which was supposed to be departing at 10 AM, had a schedule change to a much earlier departure time. Thankfully, I was notified of the change weeks in advance, so I was able to change my trip accordingly. London is not only the capital city of England, but is also by far the largest and most important city in the entirety of the UK. With a population of 9.5 million people calling this city home, it's also home to some of the most influential people on the planet, and not to mention the British monarchy. Getting around London is fairly straightforward. However, like I said in my introduction, the London Underground train system, nicknamed the Tube, was not operational due to the time. So instead, to get to the airport today, I had to use the bus. Not a real issue honestly, but this had the unfortunate side effect of doubling my travel time. Excluding all non-commercial airfields, RAF bases and general aviation airports, London has more airports than any other city in the world. 6! But why is this the case, considering most cities only have 1, maybe 2? To list them off quickly, they are Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, Luton, Southend and City. However, none of them are as unique as London City Airport, which, unlike the rest, does not use an old RAF base as the foundation for the airport, rather an old dock, which is conveniently runway shaped. Located in the east end of London, London City Airport is by far the smallest of all, handling approximately 3.5 million passengers per year. From here you can fly up to 31 destinations across 10 different airlines. Having arrived at the airfield, I quickly made my way inside to escape the cold. British Airways, or BA Cityflyer in this case, uses the southernmost check-in counters here at London City Airport, and they are split into economy and Euro Club or business class lanes. I found the check-in process to be fairly simple and straightforward. However, I struggled to put my bag tag on, as BA uses these rather strange, sticky bag tags, rather than the usual sticker-like ones. Thankfully, there were more than enough staff members who were more than happy to assist me. With my bag sent on its way to Scotland, I was quickly ushered to the security checkpoint, which is located up the stairs. Now, one thing I have to mention about London City Airport is that there is barely any signage indicating where the security checkpoint is. Now, in hindsight, I should have realised that security is located up the escalators. However, again, being that this was my first time here, I got completely lost and nearly ended up going behind the scenes, unintentionally. Security this morning was fairly typical of a British airport, taking only 5 minutes to complete and pass through, and I generally have no complaints about the whole process. Post security at the time was under repair, which made the whole setup feel rather industrial. There was also the duty-free shopping area on the left-hand side. However, despite my flight being an inter-UK flight and also being considered a domestic flight, it was rather surprising that I was able to purchase duty-free goods, not that I had any intention to do so anyways. The terminal and gate area is spread out in a giant line, meaning all gates are right next to each other, and very easy to find. Upon arriving at the gate, waiting on stand is the aircraft about to take me north to Scotland, which today is an Embraer E190LR registered as Golf Lima Charlie Alpha Charlie. Construction of this airframe was completed at the Embraer final assembly line in São José dos Campos in Sao Paulo, Brazil in January of 2012. She was first sent to China Southern under Bravo 3136 before moving to BA Cityflyer in August of 2020, making this aircraft 13 years old. Boarding commenced shortly after I had arrived at gate number 7, starting firstly with Euroclub passengers and then followed by row for economy. It's worth mentioning that London City Airport has no jet bridges, so therefore all passengers must board via air stairs. The airport is also bound by size restrictions, and depending on who you ask, the largest aircraft that can safely operate here is either the Embraer E190-E2 or the Airbus A318, which BA used to operate as Speedbird 1 between here and New York via Shannon, Ireland. British Airways' E190s all have the exact same configuration, with 106 seats in the standard 2-2 layout. This morning I shall be seated in 20 Alpha on the port side or left-hand side of the aircraft. British Airways has opted for the Gevin Essenza RJ seat for their E190s, which features 29 inches or 74 centimeters of pitch and 18.3 inches or 46 centimeters of width. There is a semi-decently sized tray table that folds down and extends towards you. In the seat back pocket you'll find a safety card only. Above the tray table is a small device holder suitable for a phone. Above are individual reading lights, air vents and a single flight attendant call button. Soon the engines fired up on stand 7, 5 minutes ahead of our scheduled departure time.
Welcome aboard everyone. Customers now boarding. We're going to brief you on the safety procedures of this aircraft. We ask that you remove your personal headphones until the end of the briefing and stow away in your luggage. As a reminder, smoking is not permitted at any time whilst on board. Thank you. We will now demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft, and your attention is essential as these may differ from any aircraft that you have flown on before. And it is fastened and adjusted like this and opened like this. Seatbelts must be worn whenever the seatbelt signs are released.
We taxied to runway 27 via Tango 3 through 9 and Mike.
Fastened and visible at all times.
Now please enjoy this unedited takeoff. After an aggressive and steep takeoff, we made a sweeping right-hand turn away from the city to set up a northerly course for Glasgow. Flight time today is 59 minutes, covering a distance of 371 miles or 597 kilometers, cruising at 36,000 feet. Straight after takeoff, down below was the O2, a large concert arena, as well as Canary Wharf, and not to mention the numerous famous sights of London, including Tower Bridge, the Shard, the River Thames, Buckingham Palace, Big Ben, and there's so many more to name, and I don't have enough time to name them all. Less than a few minutes later, we passed directly to the east of yet another London airport, this time being London Luton Airport. Not long after reaching our cruising altitude, the cabin crew commenced the in-flight service, and they began handing out muesli bars and a selection of different drinks. In my case, I chose a cup of apple juice, both of which were fruity and very tasty. Tea and coffee was also on offer as well. As we continued up the British countryside, we eventually passed by the second largest city in all of England, that being Birmingham. On board the aircraft are two bathrooms, one at the front and one at the rear. Inside is everything you would typically come to expect for an aircraft of this size, including scented hand soap, similar to Qantas. Just prior to our descent, off the left-hand side of the aircraft was the city of Derby and the relatively small East Midlands Airport. Soon we commenced our descent into Glasgow.
Just a quick update from flight deck. We're now well into our descent down towards Glasgow.
As we will be landing in low visibility conditions, please ensure that all electronic devices, including handheld devices, are now switched off until after we have arrived.
Whilst on the way down, the cabin crew and captain made it very clear that we would be landing in thick fog, and as such the crew were adamant that all electronic devices, like phones, were to be switched off entirely. Now, whilst most airlines will tell you to switch on airplane mode during the flight, this is a first for me. Electronic devices, like mobile phones, emit radio waves that, theoretically, could interfere with sensitive equipment on the aircraft, including things such as navigation systems. However, whether this is actually true or not, I'm not 100% certain. What I suspect the real reason is that phones are a distraction, and in the event of an emergency, most passengers' eyes will not be adjusted to the outside conditions and lighting. I guess we will never really know the real reason why. Now please enjoy this unedited landing. After landing, we taxied back to the terminal via Golf 1, Golf and Lima. We pulled into gate 17, 11 minutes ahead of our scheduled arrival time. As I stepped off the aircraft, I thanked the great crew before turning my attention away from British Airways and towards reclaiming my bag and continuing onwards to Iceland. So, I just flew with BA Cityflyer on an Embraer E190 between London and Glasgow. What are my thoughts? Well, as always, let's start from the beginning. The check-in process at London City Airport was fairly standard, nothing special. However, like I said, the bag tags were really weird and certainly not something that I'm used to. Security was also fairly typical. However, London City Airport has recently received upgraded CT bag scanner technology rather than the old X-ray machines, which have since been replaced. On board, the seat was thin, yet very comfortable. I really like the small phone holders on the backs of the seats, though I wish that there was a USB port next to them, like on Jetstar's A321neos. The food served was fairly typical for what you would receive on a similar product back in Australia, but I wish I was given something a little bit more substantial, considering I paid £89 for this one-way flight. And finally, the crew were friendly, yet incredibly strict. The moment the seatbelt sign was switched on for landing, those that were left standing were ushered into their seats within about 10 seconds, and not to mention the phone usage was heavily policed. So yeah, I would recommend British Airways, as it was a mostly hassle-free and generally a comfortable experience, as well as an enjoyable flight. I wonder how they compare on their larger aircraft, or on long-haul flights, or maybe even in business class. I guess if I want to try that, I'll have to come back here, or simply fly to Singapore from home. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you check out my other videos if you want to see more. And I have said this before, but I now have a Discord server. Feel free to join. The link can be found at the top of the description. And as always, feel free to press the notification button too, as it will let you know whenever I upload, which happens every single Friday at 8 PM Sydney time. And I hope to see you all again in the next one. See you later!